My name is Ren Ashcombe, and for the first 3 weeks aboard the Velvet Current, my crewmates thought I was broken. That is the only word I ever heard them use when they thought I could not understand their private channel. Broken, the quiet human. The one who flinched at nothing, who startled at nothing, who laughed at nothing. Sable Threnody of Ice, our helmswoman, called me the ghost, because I moved through the corridors without a sound. My boots never scuffed the floor the way everyone else's did. Torv Basilar, our engineer, a big and strong being built like a small mountain, thought silence meant I was not smart. He was not shy about saying so. Command sent us a broken one, he said one day, not even bothering to lower his voice. He believed I was too dull to notice the insult. Look at her. She does not talk. She does not ask questions. She does not even blink the right way. He was not wrong about the blinking. On my home world, blinking too long could get you killed. I did not correct him. I never corrected any of them. Where I came from, you did not waste your breath on things that did not matter. Being liked by people who had never missed a meal, never lost a family member to a poison cloud, never slept with a knife under their pillow because the walls of their shelter shook when the sea monsters came inland, that did not matter to me. What mattered was watching. Learning the ship, learning the flow of every room, the same way you learn the flow of a river before you decide it is safe to cross. My home world does not forgive people who learn too slowly. I was 11 years old when the rescue ships finally came. My colony was the last human colony ever pulled off a planet that humans were never meant to live on. It was a mistake in the paperwork, they told us later. A land claim approved for a world that had never been properly studied. By the time anyone learned the truth, that the air produced poison clouds 3 times a year, that the ocean tides moved on a strange and dangerous cycle, that the local animals had grown into 8 different kinds of hunters who all wanted to eat something exactly our size, there were already 400,000 of us living there with nowhere else to go. 19 years later, when a rescue ship finally broke through the wreckage in orbit and landed a small craft, they found only 6,000 of us left alive. I do not tell people that number often. I do not tell people much about my home world at all. It is not a story I enjoy remembering. The teasing did not bother me. You should understand that first. I had survived a world that could destroy the careless the way you might eat your breakfast without thinking. Torv's jokes about broken humans were about as dangerous to me as a light rain. What did bother me, if anything did, was how loud they all were. Loud in the halls of the ship, loud in every room. On a Deathworld, being loud is how you die, and some habits do not go away just because the walls around you are now made of metal instead of woven wood. So I watched everything. I learned the Velvet Current the same way I once learned my home valley. I learned every sound in the walls that meant something was wrong, and every sound that meant nothing at all. I learned each crew member's small signs before they lost their temper. I learned every way out of every room, and every place where a person could hide, and every place where a person could get hurt. It turned out this kind of watching mattered a great deal in the end. A Deathworld does not only teach you to survive monsters, it teaches you to notice the short moment right before a monster arrives. We were 11 days away from the next station when the ship gave a shake that did not match any of her normal sounds. It was the wrong pitch. It lasted the wrong amount of time. And after it stopped, there was a strange silence that felt wrong too. Everyone else on the bridge kept working like nothing had happened. Sable did not even look up from her screen. I was already moving before I finished thinking about it. I found the problem 2 floors down, in a cooling pipe that nobody checked often because it was not due for an inspection for a while yet. It might have been a small piece of space rock, or maybe just old metal finally giving way. It did not matter which. What mattered was the sound, a thin hissing noise, and a strange burnt smell that told me the coolant was leaking into a hallway that led straight to where most of the crew were sleeping. On my home world, that kind of smell meant you had less than 2 minutes before the air in a closed space stopped being safe to breathe. I did not stop to call for help first. Calling for help would have used up time I did not have, and that time was the difference between 6 sleeping crew members waking up safely and 6 sleeping crew members not waking up at all. I closed the sleeping area door by hand. Then I pulled down the heavy emergency wall that was not built for someone like me to move alone. Fear can make a body do surprising things when it has already learned that waiting too long is how you lose people you care about. After that, I let the damaged hallway open safely into space to stop the leak from spreading any further. Only then did I call for help. Torv found me sitting on the floor outside the sealed sleeping area a short while later. I had a burn along one arm that I had not even noticed yet, because noticing pain before the danger is truly finished is another thing my homeworld had trained out of me. He did not say anything about broken humans this time. He stood there for a long moment, staring at the heavy wall I had pulled down with my own hands and my own strength. It had taken 2 of his engineering team and a machine to lift it back up later that day. How? He said at last. Not what happened, not even, thank you, just, how? I looked up at him, and I think that was the first time any of them had truly looked into my eyes and seen what was actually there. Where I grew up, I said. The ground itself wanted us gone. The water wanted us gone. The air wanted us gone twice every year, right on schedule. You learn to notice trouble before it happens, or you never grow up at all. I am not broken, Torv. I am just tired of things trying to hurt me. This ship, with its clean air and its steady floor, and 11 quiet days ahead of us, this is the safest place I have ever lived in my whole life. You have no idea what a gift a boring day truly is. Sable was standing in the doorway by then too, along with a few others from the crew, and they were all very quiet. It was not the same kind of quiet as before. This quiet had nothing to do with teasing. 6,000, I said. I am still not sure why I finally told them that number, except maybe it was time to let someone else carry it with me for a while. 6,000 of us were left, out of 400,000, by the time they finally took us off that world. I was 11 when we landed there, and I was 30 when we finally left. I have spent more of my life listening for danger than doing almost anything else. So no, I do not talk much. I do not need to. I already know what truly matters. Nobody called me the ghost after that day. Sable started walking beside me instead of walking ahead of me, as if she wanted to learn how I moved and how I noticed things. Torv gave me a permanent place as backup lead whenever anything involved the safety of the ship's structure, and he never once questioned it again. Word spread quietly through the crew, the way things do on a small ship where everyone eventually hears everything. A few days later, our captain, a calm and careful being named Oren Halvest, asked me to come speak with her privately. I expected questions about the emergency wall, or about the coolant leak, or maybe about why I had not called for help sooner. Instead, she asked me about home. I told her the truth. I told her about the poison clouds that came with the seasons, and how we learned to read the color of the sky the way sailors read the weather. I told her about the tides that never followed a normal pattern, and how a person could be safe on the shore one moment and in danger the next, if they did not understand the water. I told her about the animals, some as small as a hand and some larger than the ship's shuttle bay, all of them dangerous in their own way, and how children on my world learned to identify tracks and sounds before they learned to read words. She listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. You never once mentioned any of this, she said. Not in your file. Not in your interview before you joined this crew. Nobody asked the right questions, I said. And even if they had, it is not something I like to talk about without a reason. Talking about it does not change what happened. It does not bring back the people we lost. I would rather spend my energy noticing what is happening now, in front of me, than telling old stories about what happened long ago. That is a very practical way to look at grief, she said. On my world, grief without action gets you killed, I answered. You learn to feel it quickly, and then you learn to keep moving. Otherwise, you become the next thing lost. She nodded slowly, like she was turning that idea over in her mind. Then she smiled, just slightly. Well, Ren Ashcombe, I am very glad Command sent us their so-called broken one. I believe you may have saved 6 lives, and quite possibly saved this ship as well. I would like to make your position on this crew official. Not simply as backup lead for structural safety, but as an advisor whenever something feels wrong before we can prove it. I trust your instincts more than I trust half of our sensors. I was not used to praise. On my home world, doing your job correctly was expected, not celebrated, because failing to do your job correctly usually meant someone died. Being thanked for staying alive and helping others stay alive felt strange to me, almost unfamiliar, like a language I had not yet learned to speak fluently. Still, I said thank you, because it seemed like the right thing to do, and because I could tell she meant it honestly. In the weeks that followed, something on the ship slowly began to change. Torv started asking me real questions instead of making jokes, questions about how I noticed danger so quickly, about what kinds of sounds and smells I paid attention to, about how my body seemed to react before my mind had even finished processing what was happening. I did my best to explain it to him, though some of it was difficult to put into simple words. It was less like thinking, and more like a kind of quiet instinct built from years and years of practice. Sable began training beside me during quiet hours, learning how to walk without making noise, how to notice small changes in a room, how to trust the feeling in her chest when something did not seem right, even before she could explain exactly why. She was not from a Deathworld, and she never would move exactly the way I moved, but she was a fast learner, and I found that I enjoyed teaching her. It gave the things I had learned through hardship a new kind of purpose. My past stopped being only something painful to carry silently. It slowly became something useful that I could share. Even the younger members of the crew, who had once avoided me because they thought I was strange, started sitting near me during meals. At first, they simply watched me quietly, the way people often watch something they do not yet understand. But over time, a few of them worked up the courage to ask questions. What was it like to grow up somewhere so difficult? Was I ever truly afraid? Did I miss my home world at all, even after everything that happened there? I answered honestly, though carefully. Yes, I told them. I was afraid many times, more times than I could count. Fear was not something a Deathworld ever removed from a person, no matter how strong they became. What changed over time was not the fear itself, but how quickly I learned to act even while feeling afraid. As for missing home, I said that I did not miss the danger, not even slightly, but I did miss certain small things. I missed the way the sky sometimes turned a soft green color just before sunset, when it was one of the rare safe hours of the day. I missed a few of the people who had not survived, whose voices I could still remember clearly, and whose laughter I sometimes still heard in my quiet thoughts. They listened closely, and for the first time since I had joined the Velvet Current, I did not feel like the strange, quiet outsider anymore. I felt like a member of the crew who simply carried a different kind of past than everyone else, one that had shaped how I moved and thought and reacted, but did not have to keep me separate from the people around me. Many months later, long after the coolant incident had become something the crew only mentioned occasionally, almost like an old story now, Torv said something to me that I have never forgotten. We were working together, repairing a small section of the outer hull, and he paused for a moment to look over at me. I used to think quiet people had nothing worth saying, he said. Now I think quiet people have usually already said everything that truly matters, just not with words. I smiled at that. A small smile, but an honest one. Where I come from, I told him, actions always spoke far louder than words ever could. Words could not save you from a poison cloud. Words could not stop a tide from rising too quickly. Only paying close attention, and then acting quickly and correctly, could do that. I suppose that is simply the way I still am, even now that I am safe. He nodded, and for a while, neither of us said anything else. We simply worked quietly, side by side, the comfortable kind of quiet shared between two people who finally understood one another. I still do not talk very much, even now. I still notice every sound the ship makes, every small change in the air, every quiet warning sign that most others walk right past without noticing. Some habits I have learned never fully disappear, and I am no longer sure I would even want mine to disappear completely. They kept me alive once, and now, in a strange and unexpected way, they help keep an entire crew alive as well. They do not call me broken anymore. Now, when they speak of me at all, they simply call me Ren, the quiet one who always seems to somehow know when something is wrong before anyone else does. And every single time, in my own quiet way, I make sure that whatever is wrong gets fixed before it ever has the chance to become something truly dangerous. That, in the end, is enough for me.